What is up, guys? This is Kobe here, and in today's video I'm going to bring you guys a review of the class Hoyoung. Now, disclaimer, this is not a guide video. A guide video for this class will be coming out in November, but for now I'm just going to give you guys a review, my personal thoughts, what I absolutely enjoy about the class, and what I really does feel like needs to be changed, because this class is by far not perfect, but for some reason I'm really liking it. But anyway, I really think I should talk more into detail about Hoyoung, its style, its combos, its gauge, just all that kind of stuff right now. So when they released Hoyoung, I don't really think any of us were expecting it to be a thief class by the looks of the trailer. Y'all thought, judging by the skills, it was gonna be more so of a mage, and apparently nah, it's a thief. The reason why it's a thief is mainly because of, I guess, how the skills function and how they spawn a rapid amount of clones. This class has a lot of clones. It is absolutely ridiculous. That's essentially their way of shadow partner. Fun fact, actually, clones really do produce the highest damage out of any other skill across this entire class. So that's something that I found interesting. But anyway, Hoyoung is a thief anima. Anima being the new race, and its weapon is a hand fan. Not to be confused with Kana's fan. I know this question has been asked a million times, but I'm going to answer it right here and right now. No, this class does not share the same fan with Kana. Kana's fan is just called a regular fan and has a base use of magic attack. Hoyoung is a thief. Thieves won't really get off of magic attack. That's why they had to add a new weapon called a hand fan. I know fans have weapon attack on them, but those are the mage only fans. So we had to add a new set of fans for Hoyoung. So when Hoyoung comes out and you Kanas get your droplets, don't go out and buy the wrong fan, and just pay close attention to it. That's all you gotta do. So to already simply start off with Hoyoung's toolkit, it is a gauge class and a combo class, aka unmainable for about 99% of the entire community. But that's okay, because it's kind of fun to play. Now we got first job. This pretty much starts off by introducing to you your human attribute, because this class goes by 3 attributes. We have the human attribute at first job, the earth attribute at second job, and the heaven attribute at third job. First job also introduces the system of charm power, where you fill up the ball in the middle and you're able to use certain charm skills. Charm skills can only be used when the ball in the middle is full. So at first job, you get your basic attack skill. It's called Fan Smash. You better like Fan Smash, because this skill is going to stick with you pretty much throughout the entire duration you play Hoyoung. When you use Fan Smash, you charge up about 10 charm power every time you use it. So once you stack up to 100 charm power, aka 10 uses of Fan Smash, and it has to hit and be for the charm power to activate, you get Suction Bottle, where you suck monsters into the bottle and then you spit it out on other mobs. Now, doing that will give you scroll power, but I'm not going to talk about that, so I'll talk more about third job. So that's essentially first job's gameplay. Hoyoung also gets a flash jump at first job, and if you do the quest line, you end up flying as well. I am currently level 202 on Hoyoung, and I have yet to disconnect using this flying skill. Granted, I didn't really go back to doing the quest line until 150ish or so to get it. Good news though, Hoyoung's quest line is not required, but it is certainly highly recommended because of these skills. So I really suggest, if you want to play this class, you want to get all the skills as much as possible, you gotta do the quest line. Second job introduces the clones, and it also introduces the earth attribute abilities. So at second job, you get a skill called Ground Wave, which is basically just hitting the ground and then being able to slide on it. Now, this class has something called a fake/real system, and essentially how that works is it only applies to earth and heaven attribute skills, and when it goes by fake or real, it's essentially talking about the clones that spawn in the skill. If you use the fake version of the skill, you can see your clone sliding off. If you use the real version of the skill, while pressing an arrow key, you can see yourself sliding to that direction instead of the clone. Now this applies for movement, if you want to move with certain skills and whatnot. So if you use Ground Wave fake, you'll just be standing in place and not moving at all. but if you use ground wave reel, by holding arrow keys, you will slide to other mobs. So this skill looks very similar to the skills that Thunderbreaker unlocks at second job, and this is probably the only similarity to Thunderbreaker will probably have, especially with how it looks, being all blue and everything. You know, it's pretty interesting. Second job also unlocks the ability of clone attack. Clone attack, like I said, is by far probably one of the best skill this class has, for both mobbing and bossing, because you can just hit one single enemy and then the clones will just start to appear and attack other enemies. This skill spawns in 3 clones for every time you attack an enemy. So, and these clones deal 2 lines of certain damage percent. So that's a really nice skill to have, and that's essentially it as far as second job attacking goes. So you have 2 of the 3 attributes, and we've unlocked the clones. At third job, we have finally unlocked the Heaven attribute with the skill Wind Wave. Once again, it is a fake/real skill, where the fake version you can see the clone, and the real skill, if you hold the skill down by pressing the arrow key or double tap the skill, you'll be able to move over to where the clone moved. Now, if you hit an enemy while jumping over to an enemy, you will bounce off of the enemy. So that's something that you need to be really concerned about while training, especially bossing, otherwise things might not look too good. Next up, we have a new earth skill. We have this earthquake ability. In the fake version, you can see a clone of Hoyoung on the side of the rocks hitting the rock. So as the real version, you'll be able to teleport to that side. So it's a nice little skill to use for mobility in terms of bosses as far as the teleport goes. More so in emergency cases. I wouldn't really use it in a bossing rotation. At least I don't really know much about the class as far as that goes. Well, that's essentially it. The charm skill at third job is a summon. It also introduces the scroll power system. So essentially how scroll power works, now that we've unlocked all 3 of our gauges, or all 3 of our attributes, scroll power is charged up by 35 every time you use the charm power skill, and you need 100 scroll power to use scroll power skills. So you need to use 3 charm skills before you can use any scroll power skill. And this scroll power skill third job is called animal transformation, hitting monsters kind of like a chain with the chain lightning effect, while also inflicting a 20% defense reduction buff on enemies for 1 minute as well. So it's certainly a nice little debuff skill to use on bosses, but only if you're able to upkeep your scroll power, which isn't necessarily easy to do unless you use the hyper skill for it. Fourth job introduces players to an extra skill for the human attribute, which is called Staff Smash, and another skill for the Heaven attribute, which is called Destruction Flame. It also has a fake/real system attack attached to it as well. Using the fake, you will see a clone fly up to that very top platform, but if you use a real, while pressing the skill twice and holding the arrow key up, you'll be able to go up to that platform yourself as well, though it is very high, because you certainly didn't see me actually make it to the platform. So Hoyoung also has 2 charm skills at 1 charm skill and 2 scroll skills at fourth job. The first charm skill being a door. This skill has a 5-second cooldown, but it is spawned for 100 seconds. You are able to freely spawn to the door as much as you please, with the 5-second cooldown, of course. And then the 2 scroll skills that this class has is the first one being a butterfly summon. Not only does the skill increase your final damage by 10%, but you are able to summon butterflies as well as how much you're attacking. The next summon skill, or the next scroll skill that fourth job has, is a vortex. The vortex can be spawned at any place. It has a really decent horizontal range, but as far as its vertical range goes, it's not necessarily too great. So a placement like here would be okay for something like this summon. So training at maps, you would really have to stand here and realize, what is going to be decent for this vortex to be used, if it even has to be used at all, because once again, scroll power is not easy to charge up to a maximum amount. So for the most part, you can really only use 1/4 job scroll skill at a time, unless you use the hyper skill that brings up your gauge by quite a bit. Hoyoung has 3 different types of hyper skills. The first 3 hyper skills shown affect your attribute abilities. The second 3 affect your charm ability, starting with Suction Bottle, 25% damage, 25% IED on the clones, and then 25% less downtime between attacks on the summon that you use at third job. And then there are 3 scroll power hyper skills. The first one being Animal Transformations, 35% damage, the Butterflies 20% damage to bosses, and the Vortexes 20% reduction between attacks. So these 2 basically mean that they will be able to attack more frequently. I still don't really know what the most optimal hyper build is. I definitely do go for the Butterfly skill for 20% boss damage, because I do see myself having butterflies up all the time. You basically spawn like 5 butterflies while you're attacking with it, so it's really nice to have. As far as the actives go, we have this little wall, or this painting that you are able to spawn in at the cost of 10 scroll power, and you use every 25 scroll power or 25 scroll power per second while you're in it, and it acts as an iframe. So that is one of the 2 iframes that this class has, and it only has a 50-second cooldown. Let's see if 35 scroll power is enough to show what it's kind of like right there. You could kind of see it. It is enough to be able to, you know, block things off for you, so you know it's not too bad. The 140 hyper though, this skill lasts for 20 seconds and it gives you a 10% final damage buff, and while you are in it, every second you receive 30 charm power and 15 scroll power. The skill is absolutely broken, and there's a reason why it has a 200-second cooldown, and it syncs very well with the 5th job skills. I also forgot to mention that Hoyoung has a bind at level 190, so you don't have to worry about getting Erdeno for the class as well. The bind does last for 11 seconds, I believe, a second longer than a regular bind does. Unfortunately though, its cooldown is 200 seconds, so it's a lot longer than your regular bind. 5th job on Hoyoung screams nothing but luxurious burst. Though they are super nice skills to have while you train, it's just the fact that the cooldowns are so long, you would rather only use them for bursting. We have the Tiger skill, which requires 100 scroll power to use, not charm power but scroll power, but every time this Tiger attacks every few seconds with really high damage percent. It starts off at about 45 seconds at level 1 and goes up to 60 seconds at level 30. Not too big of a time increase in the levels, but it is what it is. Next up we have a 5th job skill, Hyper Clone Rampage, where every time you attack, 12 clones will spawn instead of 3 clones, and the clones damage is increased drastically. Not only are the clones damage increased drastically with the skill as well, using clone attack nodes will increase the damage of the clones on this skill as well, on top of clone attack. So clone attack is probably like one of the best nodes to get for this class in general. Next up we have the super powered gods ability. I forgot the full name already, but essentially what it does is every time you attack 6 times, you'll see a spirit come down, whether it be a fist, a foot, a hand. They'll just start coming down and they'll start attacking the enemies for super high damage percent, and its reactivation cooldown is 1.5 seconds. It attacks a lot at bosses, and if you press the skill before the buff is over, you call the super powered gods and they summon 6 shockwaves of 2000% damage roughly at 12 lines for each shockwave. So it's a really strong skill. You do have to press the skill again before the buff expires though. Failing to do so will not allow you to toggle that iframe move, and yes, that is an iframe move. You do have a buff on your on the top right here that indicates that you are in an iframe when that skill is activated, so it is good to use against bosses. If I want to speak about an actual standpoint about Hoyoung mobbing on this class can be very awkward, especially in small maps. For some of the classes that they've been releasing for a while, Hoyoung's mobbing is kind of below it. I definitely do say it's below the tier of Pathfinder. If you guys saw my recent upload, level 201 Hoyoung Training Advancing Journey, you're able to see how Hoyoung performs in cave maps like that. I certainly do believe that cave probably wasn't the best choice for this class, as I probably wish I had gotten a 210 and show you their torrent zone mobbing, but that would only really be effective if I was able to one-shot. This class has good mobbing in certain maps. Now, I'm not saying it has bad mobbing in other maps. I'm just saying that it doesn't really excel in maps like those, and there are just many other classes that are able to perform better. For the most part, the mobbing, as a Dark Knight main and somebody who's been playing it for so long, I never really cared. I think the mobbing is fine to me, but for many others, I just certainly don't feel like this is a decent class you would consider wanting to farm with, especially with all the skill uses and the fact that mobbing, you cannot mob in this class brain dead. It requires high attention to your gauge, so you have to know when to use your charm skills, you have to know when to use your scroll skills, just all that stuff. It just starts to get quite a bit in the way, and it can be really annoying. I've already had a friend who just really enjoyed the class at the start, and then after thinking about how much you have to pay attention to his gauge, he just gave up on it. So it's just things that you really need to be well aware of, and that's basically that. Okay mobbing, but the attention required just doesn't really cut it for it. I realized I never talked about this skill, which is really good to have for like combos and whatnot, especially since you can combo it with Wind Wave at 3rd job. This is a 4th job skill, and when you use it against bosses, you know, it has half a second cooldown. It inflicts bleed damage, and monsters will take 270% damage every second for 10 seconds after using this skill. So the skill is nice to use against bosses. Not only that, but it helps charge up your Ilium Link. So if you want a boss with it, you know, Ilium Link is a rather useful link for this class. Hoyoung's boss thing is very much so on the burst end of things. He starts to just have like these ridiculous skills and damage pop up for him, but like the very moment that, you know, all the burst is over, you essentially just end up not really doing much damage as you know, as much as you thought you would. Hoyoung also does use a macro, which I didn't put on there. It does use a macro between its 1st and 2nd job skills to balance their attributes a little bit. They use between Fan Smash and Ground Wave. Essentially, Fan Smash and Ground Wave help a lot with charm power charging, because how attributes work is that when you use one attribute on the board, you gain 10% charm power. When you use your 2nd attribute on the board, on your gauge, you gain 15% charm power. And then once you use your 3rd and final attribute on the board, you gain 20 charm power, and then the board will reset, and it will pretty much just go by that again. So the more attributes you use, the more charm power you receive, and that's essentially, you know, key for the most part. Comboing, essentially, the combo routine for this class essentially goes by using Wind Wave at 3rd job, Destruction Flame at 3rd job, and you want to use the Rock skill, and then after the Rock skill, you can use Staff Smash from 4th job. So it does require a lot of 4th job skills to use the combo. The combos do have a little bit of a cooldown, but whenever they are on cooldown, you can just simply spam the Fan Smash in the Ground Wave macro, as well as the Wind Wave and the Rock, to not only charge up your Ilium Link skill, but also inflict bleed damage and do, you know, more damage as well, while also giving you more charm power because of how the attribute system works. Because Wind Wave counts as a heaven skill, and heaven skills need to be used in the combo rotation in order to have, you know, as much charm power as possible. You also have to remember to use your charm power, and things just, you know, start to get a bit complicated. You gotta use your skill power as well, just so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, I think Hoyoung is a decent class. I think it's nice, though I certainly do feel like the attention required to play it does not really pay off at all. The mobbing is nice, but the fact that you really need to pay, the mobbing is not even like amazing, but it's okay. It can pass. But the fact that it requires so much attention to your gauge, it's like, I can see why people would rather just play something else, something that's more simple and probably just as strong, while not having to put in that much work at all. Bossing isn't the same thing. It is a combo class, and if you mess up your rotation, your DPM can go down a little bit, and that's something you do not want to have on this class. It just requires way too much attention for very little damage output in return. If you want to know what my stat is in comparison, I am 8.3k stat with a million range, but you know, I was doing decent there, but that was mainly because of the burst. Once again, this class is very burst reliant as well. Every 200 seconds, you can really see the high damage show up with it. But after that, it's more so just, you know, your damage isn't necessarily all that high and godlike anymore, and you're going down to, you know, very low numbers. But anyway, that's it about Hoyoung. If anything, I wish this class was a little stronger for the damage that was done with it. Mobbing isn't really gonna be changed. I just feel like it's a little awkward to mob within small maps. I could be completely wrong though. I don't really have too much experience with the class, but as of right now, if I were to rate this class on a scale of 5, I would probably give it 2.5 to 3 stars. But I still, on and around, keep finding it enjoyable, so I'm still gonna keep on playing it. Thank you guys for watching.